Virtually any deck design can be built using Evolve plastic lumber. While in many respects, Evolve is much like working with traditional wood materials, pay very close attention to those techniques unique to Evolve decking. And although it is a beautiful premium finishing product, it is not designed for structural applications. The most critical step of the construction process is the proper installation of the substructure using high-quality materials. No matter which decking method you choose, substructure construction remains basically the same. All joists should be even and should not warp or bow. The top surface of the joist must be flat to prevent the decking from forming any peaks or valleys. If both joists must be used, be sure they are installed with the bow up. Badly bowed joists should not be used. The joist system should be properly square. For drainage purposes, a slight pitch away from the house or adjacent structure can be added.
Take your time during this step. The time spent crafting an extremely flat substructure will be rewarded with an outstanding finished appearance.
Traditional blocking should be installed at 4-foot to 6-foot intervals, especially on larger decks. Wind bracing may also be used. Railing layout needs to be pre-planned to allow for framing of pockets into the substructure for the rail posts. The joist spacing is dependent upon the thickness and the angle of deck boards. The joist must be on 12-inch centers when using our standard 3/4-inch decking. If decking is to be laid diagonally, the joist must be placed even closer. Please see our guidelines at renewplastics.com or in our detailed installation guide and check with local and state building authorities for exact construction codes for your area. Run joists in the longest direction of the deck and run the deck boards across the shortest length of the deck whenever possible. Unlike wood or composite decking, which swells or shrinks with humidity, Evolve is unaffected by moisture. However, Evolve decking is responsive to temperature and will expand and contract along its length. Minimizing the length of the deck boards will minimize the amount of expansion and contraction the deck will have. Always double up the last joist away from the house. This will allow for contraction and keep the ends of the decking from falling inside the last joist during contraction. No matter what direction the deck boards are run, it is recommended that their length be no greater than 16 feet. See your supplier regarding lengths longer than 16 feet. It is always best to avoid end-to-end butt joints whenever possible. But if butt joints are unavoidable, you can provide the necessary gapping and add a T-strip or feature board to produce a finished appearance. Or use multiple deck levels to create transitional zones. Another idea is to use different board patterns or changes of direction to increase the overall deck size, while maintaining a minimum length on the deck boards. Let's take a closer look at some of these techniques. Use feature boards to break up the deck into manageable sections of shorter lengths. The structure must be modified to support the feature board while also supporting the ends of the deck boards running up to it. To do this, a wood 6x6 is installed directly below the feature board and 2 joists are installed on either side of the 6x6. These are all joined together using bolts with nuts and washers. Use a T-strip or joint covers to break the deck up into manageable sections of shorter lengths. The structure must be modified to support the T-strip while also supporting the ends of the deck boards running under it. To do this, a joist is installed directly below the feature board with a joist installed on either side of it. These are all joined together using bolts with nuts and washers. The layout of the deck can be designed in a way to break a very large deck into sections of alternating board directions. In this case, the deck substructure must be designed accordingly to allow for extra support under any seams. To avoid having to run joists in the long direction, 2x4 sleepers can be installed laying flat on 12-inch centers across 2x joists on 16-inch centers. The sleepers are then screwed into each joist. This allows the frame of the deck to be installed as usual while working with the shortest length of the deck. This also works great for retrofitting new decking over existing structures. Consult your supplier for additional considerations. As we have discussed, Evolve will expand and contract with temperature changes. Using 60 degrees as a baseline, adjust gap sizes accordingly. Use less gapping when it's warmer and more gapping when it's cold. A space must be left next to building walls and around posts to allow for expansion and contraction of the evolved plastic lumber. Generally, a 3/8 inch to 1/2 inch gap is sufficient depending on the temperature of the boards at the time of installation and the length of the boards being used. Please refer to our expansion contraction chart for more details. A trim board can be used to cover the gap. Pre-cut post-based trim pieces are available. When cutting notches into evolved plastic lumber, drill or router a rounded corner in the cutout to prevent cracking at the corner, as you would with any other hard surface material. This can be accomplished by drilling a 1/2 inch hole at the corners of the notch and then cutting up to the drilled holes.